Maybe your career. I've had friends from Harvard, I go back to our class reunions, they optimized their career and just focused on that, and they've left their divorcees behind and their families, and they don't know their kids, and it's actually really sad. I've had others I've seen have optimized just one area. Life is a juggle, right? And I think success actually is a little bit around picking what your priorities are and then trying to juggle them. And if there's a ball dropping, making sure that that ball doesn't completely drop and crash. It's hard, and it's messy.
Well, that makes me one of my favorite questions to ask, because I hate the term work-life balance. I think it's a myth. I don't know that it's possible. I think there are other terms we could use, but you were talking about juggling. You have a great husband, you have 3 kids, you have this great job, a social life. How do you keep it going and flowing without going crazy?
And that is also my closets aren't that neat. That's one of the ways that I do it. There's a few things that I've learned a lot from my colleagues. I work with the #1 region in the country this year at Thrivent is run by this woman who, she's like, there's 2 out of 25 that are women. She's #1 this year. Go girl. And I hired her 4 years ago. She's done a fabulous job. She came into the job when she had 4 teenagers. And I always learned from my other colleagues. So one of her secrets was with all these four teenagers, and they're like really, sports athletes, and she's actually their kind of 2-city family at this stage in North Dakota. And one of the things that I learned from her is she is a maniac around her calendar. And the first thing she would do with her work calendar is put all of her kids' events. The most important stuff for her she would put onto the calendar first. She knew she was going to work hard. She knew the work was going to get done. But she would flow it around. What was really of value to her was her kids' sports events. And she didn't get to everything, but she got to a lot of it. And I thought, okay, that's great. I'm going to do that. Obviously, figuring out what's really important to you and getting that into your life, getting it in your calendar or whatever is crucial. Another thing that I have learned is what I would call the twofer or the threefer. And so this would be like taking what's important to you and figuring out, can you do 2 or 3 of those at the same time? So I like to ride my bike, and I gotta get to work. So I live about 5 miles from my work. I figured out, if you wear tights or yoga pants and then put a skirt on when you get to work, you can actually ride your bike to work, you get a little exercise, you get some fresh air, you get to work, that's all good, and it's a twofer or a threefer, right? Another example is Thrivent has this fabulous relationship with Habitat for Humanity. We're going to build 8 houses this year in the Twin Cities with Habitat, and my family has gone on several mission trips overseas. We've gone to Guatemala and El Salvador. So it's kind of a work thing, right? It's work sponsored. It is fun time with my family, and it's giving back. I'm hitting 3 things that's a threefer. And it's fun. So I think finding out stuff that you can do that simultaneously accomplishes several goals. If your life is really busy, that's good.
Thrivent is actually the #1 leader in the country, the Habitat.
Yeah.
So little factoid I learned.
Huge relationship.
I have more questions for Nikki, but I would also want to invite you into the conversation. So if you don't have cards at your table, use your little sheets. Please write down your questions, and the team will kind of come around, raise your hand, and we'll get some of your questions asked of Nikki. So you are a very busy person, and you just talked a little bit about biking, which is a twofer, I understand. But what about just pure fun? What do you do for fun?
Pure fun. My family is obviously really important to me. My 15-year-old who thinks I'm a dictator, he loves sports. I go to a lot of his sports. I've learned how to score baseball games, which I was really proud of myself. So I do a lot of that. My husband Simon is a pretty big athlete, and I was in Pelican Rapids. I was the smart, geeky girl who played the saxophone. I really wasn't, I never considered myself an athlete. We had all these tall Amazonian girls, from the farms. They were amazing basketball players and all that stuff. That was not me. However, I found through my husband, we've just gotten really involved in doing in fitness, I guess. My family, all 5 of us got our black belts in Taekwondo. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. That was fun.
The don't crosser.
Yeah, exactly. It's self-defense. That's what it really should be. No, it was one of those other twofers, really. So you load the kids up and we're off to Taekwondo, and it took us a while. A big, physical accomplishment for me, who always lived in my brain. My son said that our master would always say, "Stop thinking. You're thinking too much." So fitness has been a big deal. One thing that I noticed, I think with women, as you're juggling all kinds of stuff, sometimes we give up on our physical fitness. You need it. I mean, all the research shows that it's absolutely crucial. So I probably work out, 4 or 5 times a week.
And you have to.
You have to.
Take care of yourself.
You have to. It's like, so here's another thing, ladies, is you gotta put it on you gotta just tell yourself, I have to do this for my life, for my family, for my work, for whatever. You gotta work out.
Put it on the calendar.
Put it on the calendar. So tonight at 6 o'clock I'm going to Orange Theory, and I'll be the slowest one on the treadmill, and that's okay.
It's all right. It's a good thing. All right. So there are a lot of millennials in the room. There are other generations too. But are there leadership skills that the millennials need that are different from Gen Xers and baby boomers?
Okay, I love this question because I have birthed 3 millennials. But I'll take a step back if I can. Roshini is, you think I was born in the early 60s. Maybe there's a few of us in the room. And you think about the last 50 years, there's a book that's called, it's Gail Collins, New York Times woman, called When Everything Changed. And it's basically about women, in the last 50 years. You think about everything that's changed. My mom, why did she have 3 kids in quick succession? No birth control, back in the early 60s, right? So much has changed where there were no senators, no mayors, no governors. Now, the Minneapolis mayor is a woman. How cool is that? So now you look forward to the next 50 years or whatever lifespan the millennials will have. Lucas was born August of '99. The kid could live in 3 centuries, pretty easily. So I think it's going to be vastly different for these millennials from a leadership standpoint than maybe us baby boomers. Here's just a few thoughts that I would have. Number one, I think the world is going to go more global, but also more local. So what do I mean by that? When I was born, it was the company man, right? Wearing a suit, a white shirt, dad off to work, mom at home. That's just not happening anymore. Work is decentralizing. You look at the new companies that are coming up, Uber. It's a collection of people coming together, not a hierarchical structure. So work is going to be more decentralized. It's going to be more local. And what does that mean for millennials? It's going to be a more collaborative, cooperative structure. You're going to have to be great at working in teams. You're going to have to figure out how to work your career. You're probably not going to work at the same company as I have even. I've worked at 3 companies, basically. You're going to work at many companies. So another implication of that will be your brand is going to be much more around your personal brand than around what company you work for. And Roshini is a master at this in helping people think through their personal brand. I'm assuming most of us are on LinkedIn. I'm surprised how much I'm using LinkedIn to check out people's profiles. And I'm looking to see, is this somebody that could be a talent for Thrivent? You have to take your personal brand and really make sure that, one, it's high trust or high integrity. I'm sure none of you girls would have anything out on Facebook that your grandma would be embarrassed to see. I've seen some stuff that my kids have on, and my mom calls me out, and she says, tell Sam to get that down right now. So I go ahead and get that off Facebook because grandma's mad. Personal brand is so much more important. Then on the other side, globally, so this would be the third thing, is that the world is highly global. Our family's at a 6 exchange students, and what I notice is our college kids in the US go off, hopefully, to somewhere overseas and learn different cultures. What I'm seeing coming into the US, at least into Minneapolis with these exchange students, is 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. The nicest, well-mannered, we just had a boy from Guatemala, the nicest young man, fluent English, made his bed all the time. And his parents are sending him off at the age of 14 for a couple months so that he is very confident and comfortable in other cultures, in a global world, a world of global citizens. So are millennials, doing that, traveling and getting into other cultures and learning other languages? I think that's going to be really important. So personally, I think it's going to be a very different world for millennials, and the skill sets are going to be different from a leadership standpoint.
All right, so we're going to do a fire round here, Nikki, because I want to get through as many audience questions as we can. We're running out of time, so
I'll be shorter.
We're going to conjure up my days in TV when I would fight with producers for 3 seconds.
Yes.
So if you can try to do your answers in 10 to 15 seconds or less.
There we are.
First question, Mary Angela, do you want to clock her? Did you feel like you had to act like a man to get into a position of leadership?
Yes.
Why? That was good on time. You have 10 seconds left for my follow-up.
If you're working in a highly male-dominated environment, you have to be appropriate. I will say I'll add one thing. It's longer than 10 seconds. Sometimes women don't always know how to speak guy speak. I had a great mentor, and he told me, your answers, as Roshini has just told me, are way too long. Figure out 1, 2, 3 and get it out. And that would be one example of how I had to be more masculine, or at least able to influence men. Because you got to be able to do that if you're working in
As we say in TV News, don't bury the lead. Okay, what's a good way to get people to express unpopular opinions when they are afraid of a manager's reaction? And you may need to come up to her afterward for more on this, but a quickie for everyone. What's a good way to get people to express unpopular opinions when they are afraid of a manager's reaction?
I write it down. If I have an unpopular thing to say, I write it down. And then I practice with a close friend and make sure I've got the toning right. And whenever I've done that, it goes well.
Nice. Good answer. She stayed within the time. All right.
I'm terrified now.
Kind of a blended but common question. I have small children and am an asset to my employer. Realize for my work-life juggle, I need to keep the status quo of my job for the next year or two. How do I make sure I don't fall off my career long term? So kind of status quo.
I think and I've done that before too. Decided I'm going to go plateau here for a little while, take care of kids and stuff like that. I think that's just fine. Careers are long. One thing women don't do as well, the research would also say, as men, is make sure that they're making connections and reaching out. I have learned that in the work world, EQ is more important than IQ. Your people connections are more important. So if you're kind of plateauing or taking a status quo for a year, who could you get up and make connections with and build relationships either in your company or outside? And spend your time more on the EQ side, the emotional quotient, kind of the people skills, than on all the IQ and checking the boxes and getting it done.
And all of you have really set yourself up for that by just being here today. So great investment in yourself. Final question. Finish this sentence, Nikki Sorum. I don't go anywhere without
my iPhone.
It's all right, it's honest.
I love my iPhone. I text my kids. My husband's mother just moved here from France. We moved them over, he's an old kid. So I gave her an iPhone for Christmas, and she just sent me her first text.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Very cute. I'll let you have the last word. Any final thoughts for this lovely audience?
I have a final thought for our millennials in the room, because there's one more thing that I think is changing, that has definitely changed over the last 50 years. And that is that we are all much more responsible for our finances. So here I am at Pride, we help people be wise with money. We help them live generously so the world can be a better place. And I think especially for millennials, I would say do better than us baby boomers. The baby boomers, it's pretty clear, haven't done as good a job, saving for retirement and all of that. And when you look at where the world is going, I think you millennials are going to have to take responsibility for your own finances. And so some of what that means is when you get a job, make sure you're saving in a company's 401k. Make sure you got life insurance and some disability, because women use their disability. Make sure you got 3 months of savings at least, ideally a year, because then you can have that, take that job and shove it money if you don't like your employer. So, take control, because it gives you so many more options in your life.
I love it. Real world. We promised you real world answers from Nikki Sorum.